Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, Dr. Amany Asfour, Chairman of the African Business Council. Good afternoon. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello, Dr. Asfour.
Hello, fine, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, one of the goals of the Abuja meeting in Nigeria is to overcome the development challenges that are facing the African countries. So what are the most important of these challenges?
Actually, if we say that we are importing every year $100 billion food, while we have 60% of the arable land in Africa. We have 600 million people of Africa that have no access to electricity, while Africa could harness 49% of the renewable energy of the world, whether through solar, wind, hydro. Again, there is a lot of challenges with infrastructure, with access to electricity, with poverty, with conflicts, with the unenabling environment for the private sector. So to invest, the increased corporate taxes if we want to empower our African private sector. We are also having the demographic dividends. We have 60% of the African population who are youth less than 25 years and with no jobs and desperate. So there are a lot of challenges within the African continent, and this is actually one of the major objectives of the Abuja meeting, how we can empower our African continent, how can we realize the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, how can we realize our dream of the Africa Continental Africa 2060 Development Agenda of a prosperous, peaceful, integrated Africa, driven by the citizens of Africa. So how to really empower our African continent, its people, its women, its youth, and SMEs. So this is actually the challenges that we're facing on the continent.
Yes, so Dr. Asfour, the meeting also seeks to push forward the African Development Agenda of the year 2063. So what are the main points or most important points of this agenda?
The agenda, as I mentioned, is to have a prosperous, peaceful, integrated Africa driven by the citizens of Africa. And there is a lot of aspirations within this African context. So to recreate prosperity, we need to really alleviate poverty. We need to empower the African private sector, including SMEs, women and youth. And this actually will not be happening except, I call it the triad of empowerment, 3 pillars. Yes. The first pillar is private sector strengthening, including SMEs, women and youth, and this will only happen if we have information, capacity building, trade information, training, coaching, empowering our African private sector. The second pillar is about policy advocacy. We need to have the policies that empower our African private sector, our youth, our women, our SMEs, to have financial inclusion, access to credit, access to markets. One of the things that we are pushing as Africa Business Council is to have at least 40% of all government procurement to be allocated to African private sector, including SMEs, women and youth, and made in Africa products, so that we are empowering our own private sector. And the third pillar actually is about product development. If we want to realize the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we need to see how we have a made in Africa product which is value added, which is competitive, which is high quality, which is standardized. This will only happen when we again empower the private sector, the investment in capacity building of the private sector, investment in infrastructure, in energy, in industrialization for product development, how to add value and beneficiate of our African raw materials to have
I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Dr. Amany Asfour, Chairman of the African Business Council. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, break for the afternoon call prayers, and I'm going to be back with you.